The year is 1612 in England. Tensions are running high between the Protestants and Catholics. Accusations of witchcraft are being thrown around like wildfire, and folks are being executed left and right because of them. One particular case was exceptionally shocking. In this trial, the main witness was just 9 years old. Who was she testifying against? Her whole family. Welcome to the Pendle Witch Trials. Hey Wanderers, editing Katrina here. So when Kendra and I recorded this episode, she had mentioned at the end of it that there's a lot of characters and it kind of muddled together throughout the story. So I wanted to pop in and kind of lay out the family tree of characters for you guys. That way it's hopefully a little easier for you to understand as we go along through the story. So basically there are two main families that are feuding. One is the Device family, headed by Demdike, and one is the Redfern family, headed by Mother Chattox. The two main matriarchs are in their 80s and blind, and they are the ones who are seen as like the witches or cunning women is another term for it, and they basically have their other family members living with them. So Demdike has Elizabeth, who is her daughter. Elizabeth's husband, John, actually died before the story takes place. Then they together had two kids who were John Jr. and Allison, spelled with a Z. And then after, it's unclear if it was after John had died or while he was still alive and something happened, but Elizabeth had another daughter named Jeanette, who is a, quote, I apologize if this is offensive, but this is how they described her, a bastard child, because she had her while not with her husband. So yeah, so that is the Demdike or Device family tree. So then for the other family, the Redfern family, there is the matriarch Chattox, and then I think it's her granddaughter, Anne Redfern. Yeah, so hopefully that helps clear the story up a little bit, and you'll hear their names quite often throughout the story, so hopefully it makes it a little bit easier to understand. All right, enjoy!
I can just tell already I'm gonna hate this child.
I
just know it. What?
You might.
I could just tell I'm gonna hate this child. I feel bad for hating kids, but like...
Yeah, I know. It's like when you first hear it, it's justified. And then we'll get into the stuff.
I get the vibes already that it's gonna be like the Arthur Miller play The Crucible.
Okay.
Where the child, like the main character girl, I don't remember their names. Isn't the main guy like John something? Don't remember. But it's the same thing, like this teenage girl gets upset because she's sleeping with the John character and he's married. And so she gets upset that he wants to break it off, and then she accuses his wife and him of like witchcraft.
I feel like a lot of history is like that. Because people are just mad and bored. It's like, I'm going to get you murdered. Cool.
That's why be thankful for Netflix.
There you go. Theater and movies and TV shows should be cathartic enough.
Yes.
Yeah. Alrighty. Hey Wanderers! Welcome back to another Foolish Wanderers podcast, the podcast about anything and everything. Today we are kicking off Spooktober with the Pendle Witch Trials, which predates the Salem Witch Trials in the U.S. So.
Oh, when is the Salem Witch Trials?
Was that the 17th? Let me see.
I'm gonna guess late 1600s.
Yeah, so it was 1692 to 1693.
Okay.
So, yeah, so this is like 90 years earlier in the Salem ones. But we're setting the tone for the horrifying realities of the witch trials. So today we are going to be in 1612 in England. In 1612, the religious landscape of England was fraught with tension from Henry VIII's break with Rome and the dissolution of the monasteries to Mary I's burning of hundreds of Protestants. The Tudor regime had seen some of the most abrupt and jarring cultural changes in history. When King James I of England, or the Sixth of Scotland, began his rule in 1603, Protestantism was largely the status quo. The king himself had been raised to suspect the wicked ways of Catholics. His mother Mary, the Queen of Scots, was Catholic herself. And when the Catholic-led gunpowder plot was discovered in 1605, James's assimilation with Catholicism, with untrustworthiness, was only intensified. And in case you're not aware, the gunpowder plot was on November 5th, 1605. It's like right after he started ruling. Guy Fawkes was caught red-handed preparing 36 barrels of gunpowder beneath the House of Lords. His objective was to kill the Protestant King James I, who was conducting the state opening of Parliament just above the barrels. So in small pockets of the country, however, including Pendle, the Catholic communities continued to thrive. So viewed by those in London as a wild realm of debauchery and sin, Lancashire in particular was home to many faithful Catholics, and the region was treated with high suspicion. They also kind of thought that Catholicism was assimilated with witches and evil and so not good things. So it's a lot different than how I grew up thinking of Catholicism. I grew up Catholic, and it's kind of interesting to see or to hear and learn about how other religions viewed Catholicism hundreds of years before.
I did not know that you could still be Catholic in England.
I think
when Henry VIII decided not to be Catholic anymore because he wanted a divorce, and the Pope did not grant him a divorce, so he said, "That's fine. We're going to be our own religion now. Bye." And they were not Catholic anymore. So I was like, well, I don't know why I thought that. I just thought that there weren't any Catholics, but in Scotland and Ireland and Wales, you could still be Catholic. But for some reason, I don't know. I just thought that there'd be no Catholics then in England for a while after that.
I guess there was, but it was in very remote villages, and if you were caught, you're basically imprisoned or punished,
which
or whatever.
Is crazy.
Yes. It's insane.
He just wanted a divorce.
No, he's nobody can believe this shit. But
they should have just given him that divorce.
Honestly,
there's plenty of divorced Catholics now.
Oh yeah, there's a lot
all over the place.
Yep. But I guess this is in this time priests were being hidden in homes, and there's little hiding spaces that people would make for them and stuff. So it was very secretive, but it still existed. Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah. So the witch hunting craze swept across Europe during the 17th century, with King James bringing the craze with him from the Danish court after his marriage to Anne of Denmark in 1589. His first victim was Agnes Sampson, whose stripped and tortured ghost, quoted Bald Agnes, is said to haunt Holyrood Palace, and who is believed by some to be the inspiration behind the Weird Sisters in Shakespeare's Macbeth. Have you heard of Bald Agnes?
No, and I've never. And who the heck are the Weird Sisters in Macbeth?
I have to look it up again.
I always thought I knew Macbeth. Are the Weird Sisters the witches at the beginning that do
I think so.
That do what is it?
Yep.
Bubble, bubble, twirl, and trouble. Something wicked this way comes. Okay.
Yep.
I did not call them the Weird Sisters. I just called them the witches.
I think that's more or less what they're called mostly, but
Bald Agnes. That is disgusting.
Bald Agnes. Okay, so Denmark has a long history of witch haunts and witch trials, and when James visited the country, he became obsessed with rooting out witches. When he brought Anne from Denmark back to Scotland, they were caught in a terrible storm, and James took it as a sign that a witch had tried to sabotage their journey and murder the king and his new queen.
Logically, yes.
Yep, straight to witches. Agnes then became James's first victim. So here's an extraction from A History of Witchcraft by Geoffrey B. Russell to explain what happened with Agnes. So the trial of the North Berwick witches in 1590 to 92, a young girl named Gilly Duncan had the reputation of being able to aid and cure the sick. Her employer, convinced that she must have diabolical powers, took it upon himself to torture her until she confessed, and that she had received help from the devil. Justified by her confession, he turned her over for prosecution, and under the threat of further torture, Gilly accused a large number of men and women in and around Edinburgh. One of these, Agnes Sampson, an elderly woman of good education and reputation, was examined by the king himself. Since she refused to confess, she was stripped, shaved, and searched until the devil's mark was found.
And what is the devil's mark? Is it a
It's
mole?
like literally, yes. It's like any like weird like birthmark or mole that they could find. It is so vague. It's just like any like weird skin blemish that wasn't, like smallpox or something. But they're like, you have a
Oh
mole.
my god. I have a lot of those then. Oh my gosh.
You've been kissed by the devil many times,
I
Kendra.
have a lot of devil's marks.
Yeah, so yeah, like literally they would just find the smallest like little pinprick of a mole and be like, nope, you've been kissed by the devil, she dies.
I thought they were angel kisses.
I think those are freckles. That's what my grandma
those-
always said my
I
freckles
thought those
were.
were moles. Are they not moles? Wait a second. Are freckles angel kisses and moles are like the devil's mark?
I think so, yeah.
Well, then I do not have any angel kisses. I just have the devil's whatever.
I think it could be angel kisses too, Kendra. You have several angel kisses.
I think they're just the devil's buttholes all over me or something. I don't know.
Oh no. So after several days of torture, Agnes confessed. A large company of men and women had sailed in sieves to North Brunswick on Halloween, she said. They danced, entered a church illuminated by black candles,
Ew.
and did homage.
I just said ew to the black candles.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I just derailed that cool sentence. Start that sentence again. It's cool. Or I went like, ew.
They danced, entered a church illuminated by black candles, and did homage to the devil in the form of a man whose buttocks they kissed.
Ew. What?
Yep. The witches plotted to raise a storm to sink the king's ship as he sailed to Denmark. If this failed, Agnes planned to work magic against the king with toad's blood. This evidence given by Agnes and other accused brought many of them to the stake, a punishment approved under Scottish law. So the king insisted on being present to witness the torture of Agnes before she was found guilty and executed in Edinburgh on January 28th, 1591. So like the rest of Europe, the punishment for being found guilty of witchcraft in Scotland was to be burned at the stake, as opposed to being hanged or hung in England and Wales. And thanks to James's fascination, witch fever swept through Scotland long before it reached the extent that it eventually would in England. When Elizabeth I died in 1603, and James assumed the throne as James I of England, he brought his suspicions with him. 6 years earlier, he had written his own book on the importance of hunting witches, Demonology, which stressed the importance of persecuting witches in Christian society. Though perhaps less brutal than the Malus Maleficarum, also known as the Hammer of Witches, published in Germany 110 years before, it was still a dangerous book that led some, such as the man who would later be known as the Witchfinder General, Matthew Hopkins, to believe that they had the right to accuse and torture their neighbors until they were forced to admit the charges against them. James himself advocated for the importance of only punishing those who were guilty, but by torturing and killing so many himself, he had already spread the fear throughout the country and set an example of what a witch hunt would look like. In 1612, the witch-hunting frenzy reached Lancashire, in which would become the most infamous witch trials in English history, the Pendle Witch Trials.
Now, the Witchfinder General is kind of a badass name.
It really is.
That's
like, yeah.
I would read the book for like the Hammer of Witches. Like that sounds cool. That sounds like a really cool metal band or something.
That kind of does, yeah. It sounds like a cool like fictional book, but then people took it literally and then were like, we can torture our neighbors. And,
yeah, that part's bad, but like just like the metal band called the Hammer of Witches. That sounds cool.
Yeah. Copyright it, Kendra. Make a metal band. Quick. You sell millions. I just love like their spelling of stuff too, because like demonology and like the way that King James wrote it was Daemonologie. I don't know, just like their writing is so fascinating. You can like barely.
That early English stuff is crazy.
It is.
Yeah, don't know what they're saying.
Alright, back to Pendle. So it's important to understand the background to the events of these trials. So 6 of the 11, quote, witches on trial came from 2 rival families, the Demdike family and the Shaddocks family, both headed by old poverty-stricken widows. Elizabeth Southerns, aka Old Demdike, and Anne Whittle, or Mother Catux. Old Demdike had been known as a witch or cunning woman for 50 years. It was an accepted part of village life in the 16th century that there were village healers who practiced magic and dealt with herbs and medicines. And that's what a cunning woman was. It's basically like witch, but good. Witches were evil,
The
and cunning
healer.
women, yeah, the cunning women were the healers, and like,
The
yeah,
medicine woman. Okay.
yeah. And I also I didn't write this down here, but so like the Demdike family, both these families are very poor, but the Demdike family, they are very, very poor. They're all basically beggars, so like they're pretty low on income, and that comes into play later as well. The extent of the spate of witchcraft reported in Pendle at this time perhaps reflected the large amounts of money people could make by posing as witches. Indeed, it was a time when witchcraft was not only feared, but also fascinated those from common village folk to King James I. Demdike, the matriarch of the Device family, and Shaddix, matriarch of the Redfern family, likely competed for customers in their small communities as cunning women, and it is thought that the two families had bad blood of some kind. In 1601, a member of the Shaddix family broke into Malkin Tower, the home of the Devices, and stole goods worth around £117 in today's money. The grudge was most likely fostered to prove deadly. For many years before the trials, Elizabeth Southerns, more commonly known as Demdike, was considered a witch by many in her local area. She served with her daughter Elizabeth Device and Elizabeth's children James, Alison, and Janet. It was not considered unusual that the whole family believed in magic and that they could use it. For a long time, witch hadn't necessarily meant evil, and it could even be used interchangeably as a term as a healer or wise woman. And although Demdike and her family had received accusations of casting curses from their neighbors before, it was an event in March 1612 that caught the attention of the Pendle's Justice of the Peace, Robert Norwell, and that sealed the family's fate. Also with the Device family, so their dad apparently died, or something happened to him before Janet was born. So it was the bastard child of her mom and then another guy from their village.
Oh.
But Alison and James they're like full siblings from the mom and then their dad. So it was like speculation too of like, how was Jeanette, like, was she like, resentful for that because she would always be like, picked on for being a bastard child.
Mm-hmm.
But so people kind of wondering that there's no like solid evidence, but at the time it makes sense. Oh yeah, and also this family, they point fingers at each other a lot, which is interesting. Like they're not like a super lovey family. They just kind of like to blame each other for stuff and then get away with it. You'll see what I mean in a second.
All right.
So on March 21st, 1612, Demdike's older granddaughter, Alison, spelled Alizon, Device, was on her way to Trodden Forest when she encountered a peddler from Halifax named John Law and his son Abraham. Alison requested some pins from John, and it's unclear whether she meant to purchase them or begged from him, but most likely she was begging for some pins. But metal pins were often associated with witchcraft in the 17th century, particularly with love magic, which is perhaps why Alison wanted them. John Law said no and pushed past her, and this would be the beginning of the end for Alison.
Such a weird name.
It is. There's a few names in this story that's just like, they're just spelled so differently.
I want to say Allison, but like it's not.
I know.
With a Z.
I know.
Difficult lady. Okay.
So Alison whispered a curse under her breath, and Law collapsed on the floor almost instantaneously. His face contorted, his speech slurred, and he lost his motor function. This is now believed that he had a stroke in this moment. So believing that she had inflicted this, Alison became extremely upset and remorseful. She went to visit John at his family home a few days later, and she openly confessed her crime, begging for forgiveness. The seeds of what was soon to come were sown. So on March 30th, 1612, Alison, her brother James, and their mother Elizabeth were called before the local justice of the peace, Roger Nowell. Nowell was a fervent Protestant and likely knew that incriminating Catholics for witchcraft would score him some valuable favor with the king and those in London. So Alison confessed. Alison confessed to Noel that she had asked the devil to lame John Law. With Alison's confession that she had told the devil to lame John Law, it was upon further questioning that Alison accused her grandmother, Old Demdike, and also the members of the Shaddix family of witchcraft.
So she
The
was basically like, if I'm going down, I'm taking everyone with me.
Exactly,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yep. So the accusations of the Shaddix family seem to have been an act of revenge. The families had been feuding for years, perhaps since one of the Shaddix family broke into Malkin Tower, which is where the Demdikes, or the Device family lived, and stole the goods. So like this is like the event that they think she still had a grudge from, and that's why she was like, "You're also casting spells. You're coming with me." So furthermore, John Device, who is the father of Alison, blamed the illness that led to his death on old Shaddix, who had threatened to harm his family if they did not pay annually for their protection. James also claiming she had bewitched a local child. Their mother Elizabeth vehemently rejected the accusations that she herself was a witch, instead incriminating her mother Demdike as having the devil's mark on her body, supposedly where the devil had sucked her blood, which left her mad.
Ugh.
So not only does she have her granddaughter pointing a finger at her, but she has her daughter. So,
Oh.
yep. And she is blind. Like, both of these two matriarchs are, like, in their 80s and they're blind. So, like, there's not a lot they can really do.
Okay.
So on April 2nd, 1612, Demdike, Shaddix, and Shaddix's granddaughter Anne Redfern were called before Noel to answer for these accusations. Demdike and Shaddix, both blind and in their 80s, gave damning confessions, claiming to also have sold their souls to the devil. Though Anne made no confession, her mother stated to have seen her making voodoo doll-like clay figures, and Margaret Crook, another witness, claimed that she had killed her brother after the pair had a disagreement. So after these investigations, Alison, Demdike, Shaddix, and Anne were all committed to Lancaster and to be tried for witchcraft. That might have been the end of it if it weren't for a contemptuous meeting at Malkin Tower that occurred a week later, arranged by Elizabeth Device, friends, and a family that accused the Devices gathered to commiserate their misfortune, feasting on the neighbors' stolen sheep. So basically, they're like upset and they wanted to throw like a little party, and they stole a neighbor's sheep and they ate it. So when Roger Noel heard of this, it sounded rather like a coven meeting to him. He went to investigate, and the subsequent inquiry resulted in the arrest of a further 8 people, including Elizabeth Device, James Device, and Alice Nutter. So just because they decided to get together and eat a sheep, they were all tried for witchcraft. So all were tried at the Lancaster Assize, or trials, on August 18th through the 19th in 1612. Alongside the Pendle witches, the trials encompassed a host of other accused witches, including the Salisbury witches and the Piedmont witch, indicating that just how severe the witchcraft hysteria was at the time. With little concrete evidence for some of the accusations, one key witness was called who could change the face of witchcraft proceedings forever. The youngest member of the Device family, 9-year-old Janet. So Elizabeth Device soon found her youngest daughter giving evidence against her and her other children, Alison and James. When the child first walked into the courtroom, Elizabeth kicked up such a disturbance of screams that she had to be removed. Janet proceeded to tell the court that her mother had been a witch for 3 or 4 years, and that both she and her brother used familiars to help with their murders. Having been present at the Malkin Tower meeting, she also confirmed the attendance of other accused members, which in turn were accused of murdering people in the area. Shaddix and her daughter Anne Redfern were also accused of murder by a host of other witnesses, with Shaddix eventually breaking down and admitting to her guilt. Following the 2-day trial, 9 of the accused were found guilty, including Alison Device, James Device, Elizabeth Device, Shaddix, Anne Redfern, and Alice Nutter, while Demdike passed away in prison awaiting trial. So on August 20th, 1612, they were all hung at the Gallows Hill in Lancaster.
Ugh.
Yeah, so Janet basically killed her whole family. Yep.
And she was just set free?
Yeah, like, they didn't think she was a witch, or at least not old enough to be one yet.
Oh, there's an age? Okay.
I guess. So typically people kids this young were not allowed to testify, but for some reason King James was like, it's a witch trial. We need witnesses. So that's fine. And so under
Child.
King James law, nobody cared that she was 9 years old, and so she was brought in to testify. So, for what happened to Janet? So, for 20 years, Janet faded into history. That was until she herself was accused of being a witch by a child. The story.
Karma.
Exactly. This child was 10 years old. So, in November 1633, 10-year-old Edmund Robinson of Newchurch in Pendle went to pick berries when two wolfhounds appeared, one black and one gray. He watched them, and soon they turned into a woman and a boy. The woman he recognized to be Frances Dickinson, wife of John Dickinson. She then conjured the boy into a white horse, upon which Robinson was set and carried him to Horstones, which is a stone circle in the English county of Shropshire. There he alleged other witches arrived on horseback and adjourned in a barn, where 6 of them knelt and pulled on ropes hanging from the roof, from which a glorious feast appeared. Frightened, Robinson fled the scene and was pursued by some of the witches to a place called the Boggart Hole, where they gave up. So yeah, he followed them to a barn and they pulled on random ropes dangling from the ceiling, and then a bunch of delicious food appeared, and he was frightened. Yep.
I wish this happened.
I know.
Sounds cool.
Great. So Edmund's father, Edmund Robinson Sr., took him from village to village to identify the witches supposedly present, and after 3 months presented the authorities with a list of 20 suspects who were then arrested and tried at Lancaster in February of 1634. One of them was Jeanette Device. So Janet was charged with the murder of William Nutter's wife, Isabel. Margaret Johnson, a widow of 60 years of age, was also convicted of her own guilt that she had handed herself in to authorities and obliged them with a classic witchcraft confession, including selling her soul to a demon named Marleman.
Named Mamelin?
Mamelin. So Mary Spencer, aged 20, of Burnley, whose own parents were condemned as witches at the last trial, denied any knowledge of witchcraft, as did Frances Dickinson, the main lady that this boy apparently saw. So 17 of the 20 were found guilty. However, unlike the unfortunate souls of the 1612 trial, they were spared death and were able to appeal to the crown. Charles I was now on the throne, and unlike his father, was skeptical about witchcraft. 4 of the women, including Margaret Johnson, were sent to London to be examined by the king's surgeons and midwives. Their certificates stated nothing unnatural, nor anything like a devil's mark had been found, at least no marks that were inconsistent with well-known diseases.
Interesting.
So basically, they would literally send people to be searched, strip searched, for any, weird, mole or birthmark.
That's terrifying.
It is. So young Edmund was brought before a privy council and cracked up under interrogation, confessing that he had invented the whole story to gain respite from punishment for failing to bring the family cow home from milking. He apparently was distracted by playing with friends in the fields, and his cow wandered off. So whether his father actually believed this story or not is unclear, but he saw a money-making opportunity and blackmailed the suspects to pay up or be accused. Yeah, so both of them are not good. So yeah, the dad was like, even if it's not true, we're gonna make you pay us money, otherwise you're getting tried as a witch. All because a cow wandered away too. So ironically, the story about being taken to a witch's gathering was reputedly based on the Good Friday feast at Malkin Tower in 1612, as reported by Janet herself with the sheep. So Janet's word had come back to haunt her. The 4 women were pardoned, and the rest back at Lancaster were acquitted. But that was not the end of their ordeal. Unable to pay for their keep in prison, they remained incarcerated, and it is thought died one by one from jail fever. So
they had to pay. Horrible.
Yes. So they had to pay to be for their stay in prison, which is insane. And because they couldn't pay to get out, they died. So an official record dated August 22nd, 1636 lists Janet Device as still residing in the prison. However, it's not certain if she died there or not. There's also some uncertainty whether this Janet Device was a child who testified against her family in 1612 or someone with the same name. Nothing is actually known of the young Janet following the execution of her family. It's also thought that she may have also changed her name. So they don't know if this is the same Janet, but it's the same name that got tried 20 years later.
Okay.
So it's kind of unclear if this part, because this witch trial did happen, but they just don't know if it was her or somebody else with the same name. So
it'd probably be super easy to change your name back then too.
Oh yeah, you could
just go to in the next town and be like, "Hey, I'm Roger."
Hey, what's up? I'm Barbara.
Yeah.
Not a witch. Hell yeah. Yeah. Could you imagine how confusing that would be back then? You could just walk into a different town and live a completely different life.
I bet people did that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, serial killers would do that constantly. What'd you think of this Spooktober starter?
I was kind of confused because there's a lot of names,
There's a lot
but
of names.
I thought it was an interesting historical story.
Cool. Yeah, so basically, like, there's just, like, two main families in the original Pendle Trials, and Jenna killed basically the last of her family, so she was alone. Yep.
Smart.
Yeah, I know. Just 9 years old, and you're. Yep, yeah. But some of the resources that I used were historyhit.com, thehistorypress.co.uk, historicuk.com, and the carvercentercatalyst.com. And I'll leave links to all these resources in the description if you guys want to check them out. Thank you so much for listening to another Foolish Wanderers podcast. We hope you enjoyed. If you have any suggestions for any future episodes, please feel free to email us at fwplisteners@gmail.com.
And as always, new episodes of the FWP are released to wherever you get your podcasts from, including this place that you are listening to right now.
Yes. All right, Wanderers, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you guys next time.